Hello and welcome to another edition, a special edition of Ask the AD. It's the Rev Share era. It's finally here. We've talked about it for so long. It's finally happened. And now we wrap up the 24-25 athletic season, putting a bow on that, talking about where we are headed in the future. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
I'm glad we're able to do it. Hope everybody's going to have a great summer, and looking forward to a great summer, but a short summer because we get started back in football, I think, on July 23rd.
Yeah, we're only 50, well, practice is just around the corner, but we're less than 50 days away from the kickoff in Ireland.
So I'm kind of wearing my...
Yeah, I love the shirt, by the way. Nice shout out, Rally House, right here at the beginning.
Yeah, Rally House, get these. They're the
Varsity Willie collection.
This is the football version.
And you can get all sports now at your local Rally House if you want to check that out to begin the year. We mentioned we're less than 50 days out from the Ireland game. Folks will be wearing their Varsity Willie collection shirts over there. They might also be wearing their official Shamrock sort of gear that's also available at your local Rally House for the Ireland game. Pretty exciting that we're already this close.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I've had a lot of questions, and it seems I was just out in western Kansas doing some fundraising, and I typically ask the question, are going to Ireland? And there's so many people that say, oh yeah, we're going. We're really looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a fun trip, obviously, for a team, for our fans to get a chance to go. It's going to be a bowl-like plus atmosphere. The band's going to be there. We're obviously going to take the band over. We're going to fly them over. Aer Lingus is helping us make sure that the band gets there. They're going to pay for their travel, their expenses, their accommodations, their meals, buses while they're in Ireland. So we're going to have the band, we're going to cheer, we're going to have some classic cats over there. So they're going to do some pep shows, and it's just going to be a really fun atmosphere. And then at the end of the day, we have a really important football game to play too. And I think people are going over to enjoy Ireland, a great football game, and a great atmosphere.
Absolutely, and playing against a team in Iowa State that is a rivalry game, but at the end of the day, especially when you're overseas, you find some camaraderie with people that are, again, all from the Midwest. We're all out from this area, Big 12 fans at the end of the day, and hopefully showing
I think the Aer Lingus folks and the people in Ireland that are putting the game on are really excited that you've got two teams that are great fan bases that are going to be equally kind of represented. In the past, either Notre Dame or Florida State had the bigger fan base. So I think they'll enjoy it a lot this year, as our fans will, and our team will as well.
Hopefully they're ready for the alcohol consumption that'll be headed their way coming up in Ireland for both of these two fan bases. All right, so let's get into the Rev Share stuff. We spent a whole series breaking it down, what we thought it was going to look like.
Right.
Finally, Judge Wilkins enacts this Rev Share, and now we're here. So let's get into the first part, which is that everybody, I'm sure, asks you the same question when you're out fundraising or out and about, and the media as well. What's the breakdown? What can you say as far as the split of what team's getting what of the Rev Share from K-State Athletics?
Well, obviously, the number is $20,500,000. There's a number that comes off of that depending on how many new scholarships we offer, and I'll get into that. But basically, majority of the revenue sharing is going to go with the teams that generate the most revenue. So football, men's basketball, women's basketball. But every one of our teams will generate and have an opportunity to share in some of the revenue of that $20,500,000, basically 19 plus million. We've determined that based on who is generating the most, and then what are their needs to, and we've sat down with every coach, what do you need to be successful? What do you need to potentially win a Big 12 championships? And so since we've had those conversations and we've tweaked it over the last several months, those teams know the amount. We won't share that. I mean, it's just that everybody's kind of, and it could change year to year. So I don't want to say a specific number, but just assume football is going to get a majority, men's basketball, women's basketball, and then from there. But every team will get a chance to share in the revenue portion of the revenue share.
Now, you mentioned some money comes off for scholarships. What about that?
So we're going to add 39 new scholarships. So that equals a little over $1 million. I think it's about $1.1 million or $1.2 million. And that's going to go mostly to the women's program. 27 new scholarships on the women's program, which gives them a great opportunity so most of our women's teams will be fully scholarshiped. Women's track will go up significantly. They won't be fully scholarship. But women's golf, women's volleyball, etc. Great opportunity for them. Men's will get a few more on each. Baseball will get a few more. Track will get a few more. Football will get a couple more. And so that will be a great addition along with the revenue share. And so that's what the coaches are excited about when they sit down with a recruit. They can say, you're going to be fully scholarshiped, plus you'll have some money in your pocket. And Alston money is also a part of that. And so every sport won't lose Alston money, but some of the Alston money will be built into their revenue share amount.
Makes sense. And I think from the standpoint of a general fan, understanding that there are multiple ways to be able to benefit a student athlete and get money in their hand and be able to pay and have school be debt free.
And I think that's one of the things is people struggle with the idea of revenue sharing, which has been part of the conversations I've had. It's just we have an opportunity to continue to provide a great chance for student athletes to walk out of here debt free. And they're going to have tremendous resources in academics and nutrition and health and safety, mental health, academic support, and then obviously the scholarship and then the additional revenue that they'll have. And those are the good things from this. And it's going to level the playing field, at least on paper, which is what we all wanted to happen. But I think for donors, you're really going to be able to really lean into, as people say now, the opportunities for student athletes to have a great time and walk out of here debt free.
All right, so we're going to get into some other aspects of this. You mentioned the level playing field. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But first, I want to ask maybe just the general question that in the past, there's a fan of a specific sport, and they say, in the past, they would say, I'm targeting my donation to this specific sport. Is that still possible, or does it all go into the big pot, so to speak?
Sure, it's still possible. Obviously, the flexibility of donations, we've tried to be as flexible as we can, but yet certainly heeding to the donor's request. So if a donor says, I really want my dollars to go to scholarships, or I really want my dollars to go to academic support, or I really want to make sure that baseball, that they get their share of the revenue share numbers, we can do that. And it can't be as to a specific student athlete, it can't be to a specific, person within a team, but they can say, I really want to support baseball, or I want to support women's volleyball, or I want to support, they can do that, and then we'll be able to direct their portion of those dollars to that sport.
All right, so there's that part of the allocation of money that we talked about coming from the athletic department itself. We have seen some other colleges announce that they're taking their NIL sort of group and bringing them in-house. To this point, it doesn't seem like that's the case with Wildcat NIL. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we've been working with Wildcat NIL. They've done a great job up to this point in helping us. And so what their role will now be going out and getting that third-party NIL, the true NIL that was supposed to be back in the day. And so they've got a great relationship with a lot of corporate partners and local partners, and they'll continue down that path. Obviously, Learfield is our MMR partner, multimedia rights, they'll play a role too. So then when coaches come to us and say, where does so-and-so go out and try to get an opportunity for a corporate relationship or a true third party, we can go to either one of those groups, and Wildcat and I will be very involved with that in the future. So they won't be out fundraising like they have in the past. Donors won't give money directly to Wildcat NIL, but the corporate side of that will be where the role they'll play.
And we've heard about NIL Go, the clearinghouse of anything over $600 has to go through the clearinghouse and be improved, and there's a market value that will be assigned and evaluated, so to speak,
Right.
that nothing's out of whack. So I guess the question would be, obviously there's many different markets just in the Power Four.
Yeah.
So how do you determine efficient market value or accurate market value?
Well, obviously we won't be doing that. Deloitte will be doing that, and they obviously have a system in place, and they've been, that's kind of one of their pieces of their company is doing a value and market assessment or a range of compensation that they think a student athlete at a particular institution, based on many things, based on their social media presence, based on what position they play, what is their opportunity to, an Avery Johnson in the state of Kansas is a big name, right? Well, that could be generated just as much as somebody in LA that maybe is part of another program there, but there's so many other things that they have to compete against. So they'll put all that into an equation, and then they'll value it, and they'll either approve it or send it back. Again, that's where Wildcat NIL will help that athlete, put that opportunity together. They'll upload it into NIL Go, and then we've already seen a few. I've seen a few already that I can't necessarily adjust it. I can just see it and view it, and then it goes to Deloitte, and they either send it back and say approved, or nope, it's too much, or you need to readjust some things. So it's a process. We're all going to continue to learn. We're taking on new roles. We have compliance taking on new roles. We've added a couple of positions because of it, but I think it's gonna be great. Again, more opportunities for these young men and women to have opportunities to make more money.
All right, so the Rev Share component is supposed to level the playing field, as we talked about, so you don't have teams that are spending just incredible amount of money in football or men's basketball, or really any sport,
Right.
For that matter. The enforcement part of this, as that comes now into play, what is the enforcement? Because prior to this point, that was always one complaint about the NCAA, that there was no teeth to said enforcement. There was no sort of subpoena power that supposedly there will be with this. So how confident are you that the bad actors that might think about trying to evade and elude around the rev share cap will be punished and accurately held to judgment?
That's probably the biggest question we all have, coaches, ADs, etc. As we listen to our commissioner, Brett Yormark, and other commissioners, I was just at a meeting, a national meeting of athletic directors a few weeks ago, and that's our biggest question, is in order for this to work, the College Sports Commission and the new CEO, who is coming from Major League Baseball, that has that background. He's a former, I believe, a prosecuting attorney, and he's done this for Major League Baseball, making sure teams stay within the cap. He's come out very publicly, at least in meetings with our commissioners, to say, we will go after the bad actors. And once we do, we will act swiftly and we will punish those bad actors. So we have to see that enforced. He's just been on the job a few days, maybe a week or so. So he's got to hire a staff, and so that's kind of being built as we go. But if that works, then this will be a level playing field. If for some reason that doesn't happen, then it could fall apart. But everybody, commissioners, ADs, I've heard multiple ADs stand in the room saying, guys, we are not circumventing the cap. We have to all sign an attestation to say we're not going to. And everybody really wants this to work. And so that role of that sports commission is really going to be a big part of that.
You mentioned the Big 12 and Brett Yormark, and the commissioner has been exceptional about leading the forefront and leading the battle on certain things, be it the CFP or this. I wonder, and the question maybe come up, are there any regulations per conference for when it comes to rev share amount or scholarship numbers for specific teams, not just football, but across the board?
No, I think in some cases, some conferences, I believe the SEC has said every school will go to the max of $2.5 million in scholarships. We didn't do that as a conference. So those kind of decisions are both institutionally based and it can be conference based. We haven't done that. We've allowed ourselves, our institutions, to decide what your level of scholarships you want to add, how you want to distribute, even if you want to get to the 20.5. I think everybody's going to get there one way or the other. And so that's been institutionally based, and the conference has been very flexible, saying, guys, that's your call, where some conferences have said, no, this is the minimum or the maximum you can go, but that's up to them.
Getting to 20.5, being able to trim and tighten the belt, we talked about this a lot prior to this video, and that was all the steps that have been taken ahead of time. Now that Rev Share has come about, we've finished this last fiscal year, it's just winding down. Are there any other ways that K-State Athletics can tighten the belt that doesn't impact the student-athlete experience that you mentioned before?
Well, we've just gone through the budgeting process with all of our coaches and department heads, and they've done a great job of looking at their individual budgets and say, okay, where can we trim without, we don't have a lot of fat. We're a pretty efficient athletic department, always have been. And so, but there are some things that we have been doing that now that revenue share is a part of it, that maybe we don't have to do, that's not going to really hurt us from a recruiting perspective, isn't going to really damage the student-athlete experience, but can trim some dollars off our budget. And so we were able to save, a pretty significant amount without really, so to speak, making us bleed by cutting too much. And all the coaches and everybody did a good job, but we still need to be competitive. We still need to make sure our athletes have a great experience, whether it's travel. Of course, we're obviously traveling further distances. So, and then there's some things just out of our control. gas prices, hotel prices, et cetera. So we will trim where we can without hurting our operations.
All right, last, revenue generation. I don't know, you have a specific group that here in athletics and in the department that are looking at ideas of what can happen. We've seen ideas across the country, the concerts being held, the idea of a village that's in between, around the athletic sort of village, and can help generate money. Any of those things that are on the horizon that you can speak about?
Well, nothing definitive, but we've looked at all that. Everything, we've even talked about private equity or an investment into the department, and nothing of that is really definitive. We've obviously paid attention to concert. I think we did a concert several years ago. When I've talked to people who hold a concert, yes, there's revenue, but there's also a lot of time and effort that goes into it. It doesn't mean we're not going to do it, but I think what's been great about our staff is really thinking outside the boxes. Where are we missing revenue opportunities? Where can we create new ideas? We've talked about, putting a logo on the field. We've talked about, the things that aren't allowed yet, or, patches on jerseys. Again, that's an NCAA rule that we can't do yet. So anything that we think we can do to generate more revenue, we've looked at, and some we've had instituted and some we're still talking about.
It's an exciting time. It's also a time that we're thankful to have a great leader and thankful that you're here.
I've had a lot of help, trust me. This has been a team effort.
Thanks for doing these, and we'll promise we will get back to the regular Ask the ADs where you're sending in the questions about are we adding this sport or this sport, and
are we going to sell beer?
Sell beer 24/7 in the football stadium, all those questions that we always answer. But thanks again for doing this. Have a great summer.
Yeah, you too, and everybody have a great summer. And if you're going to Ireland, look forward to seeing you. And like I said, the team reports July 22nd, first practice July 23rd. So it'll be here before we know it.
It'll be absolutely be here before we know it. And reminder, if you still haven't bought tickets to Ireland, you are running out of time. But there is no secondary market for tickets over there in Ireland. So you're going to have to get one of the ticket packages through K-State Athletics or through the Alumni Association that they're offering. Love to see you. There's still obviously time to go, and you can join us there for the game. If not, we'll see you for the home opener and the family reunion against North Dakota, and soccer, and early starting in August as well.
Soccer, volleyball. Exciting year ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Brian.
For Gene Taylor, for Cameron Bradley, who'll be putting this together, I'm Brian Smoller. Thank you for watching Ask the AD.